I appreciate it's a bold claim, but I really think the Sony RXO Mark II is the best pocket camera that you can get. Absolutely perfect for hikers, street photographers, and anyone else who just wants to chuck a camera literally in their pocket and take it for a long walk in any weather conditions. Now you will see a lot of cameras which claim to be pocket cameras because they could physically fit in a pocket, but you'd never dream of putting something so delicate into your pocket. This camera is waterproof, drop proof, crush proof, extremely strong, extremely durable, all solid metal build, and I literally chuck it in my pocket whenever I'm out hiking. So what I'll do throughout the course of this video is I will litter it with videos taken on this camera and also lots and lots of photos. I've used this camera a huge amount since I bought it, just because you chuck it in your pocket, you don't really feel the weight or size, you can take it wherever you're going, you haven't got to worry about any kind of weather conditions. It's just absolutely durable and brilliant. Now the beauty of this little camera is it's got Sony's 1-inch type sensor, which you normally find in a much bigger RX10, Marks 1 to 4, and the RX100, which is I think it's like Mark 8 now. So this has a really good sensor, much bigger than you get in your normal action cams, and much bigger you get in most of your pocket cameras that you get like anything near this size. It is a backside illuminated 1-inch type sensor CMOS, and it shoots beautiful 4K footage at 24 frames a second, has got lots of lower resolution, very high frame rates of like 940 frames a second at quite a low resolution, and it shoots 15 megapixel really nice photos with a really good dynamic range. So it's much more comparable to a really good pocket camera than an action camera, and it's a totally different kettle of fish to any standard action camera. Now the reason you've probably never heard of the RXO Mark II or the Mark I is that when Sony launched them, they kind of pitched them in a slightly strange way. They pitched them as a kind of action cam, vlogging camera alternative, but it's really not great at those things. It's much more to be thought of as a really good, tiny, rugged camera, and also one that can shoot really nice 4K footage, but is much better on a gimbal or a tripod. One thing to bear in mind with this camera is the way it focuses. Now it's got a single focus only, it hasn't got continuous focus, which is why you can't really stick it on a long selfie stick, because basically as soon as you hit record it fixes focus on you and it remains focused at that distance. So if you were to focus it, if you're going to hit record now then extend it onto a long selfie stick, you are going to be out of focus. So for a lot of people that was a real deal breaker, because your standard average action cameras are just fixed focus. So as long as you are certain distance away from the camera, it's going to focus from there into infinity. Whereas this camera obviously focuses properly, so it can focus on your face quite closely, a bit of a blurred background, and obviously you can focus to infinity. So for me, I don't find it a massive issue, because I mainly use this camera either on its little login stand at arm's length, and obviously once its focus is absolutely fine, or I put it down on its little mini tripod and I do a walk pass. So actually fixing the focus as I hit the button and then walking past is fine for me, because I know it's not going to be hunting for any focus or getting confused. But it does make it slightly more difficult if you're doing stuff like filming a tent. So you need to make sure you kind of stood behind the camera, you put it in the right place, you set the focus on the tent, and then when you go and stand in front of the tent or sit in front of the tent, you kind of make sure you're in line with where you focus, and it'll be absolutely fine. So it needs a little bit of working around, but not the end of the world. So the problem with this Sony camera is it's a 24mm fixed lens. So it's got its little mini tripod stand, and the importance of that is that you can add the wireless connection to the back. So you've got controls on the front for zoom, the digital zoom, and also the record button. Now the record button is crucial, because when you hit record, that's when the camera focuses on your face and you're in focus. So if you were trying to extend this on a slightly longer tripod, you wouldn't really hit that button and you wouldn't really get yourself in focus. The only way around it is to use a wireless Bluetooth controller and use that to press record if you've got it on a longer tripod or selfie stick. So not ideal. So it is just about wide enough to be usable, but no stabilization currently on, which is as wide as now as it will get. If I switch stabilization on by using catalyst browse, then the image will crop in. It'll be quite stable, but it'll be much more cropped in. So you've got to make sure you're kind of filming with plenty of height above your head, so you don't end up getting it cut off. But in terms of just ease of use,
apart from the fixed focus, which can make things a little bit awkward, if you are just using this little mini tripod stand and doing it that way, you do have a very, very conveniently tiny package, and the image quality, in my opinion, is really superb. So, you know, it definitely has some pretty fundamental drawbacks, but if you can live with them, work around them, it's a pretty cool little camera. And the other thing that I've been quite impressed with is the built-in audio. Now today there is not a breath of wind, so you can use the built-in audio. It's obviously got a mic jack as well, so you can easily put external mics on as long as you get a little cage for it. But then you start to add weight and size, and it doesn't become quite as pocketable and portable as it is now. But yeah, in the right conditions, it's a really cool little camera.
The stabilization is purely digital and kind of sucks. What it does is you can have the digital stabilization in camera, or you can just have the camera set with no stabilization, and it does record all the gyroscopic data. So you plug that footage into Sony's software, and it will then stabilize the footage based off of reading that data. But Sony's software isn't very good in my experience. It crashes quite a lot, it's quite slow, you can do one clip at a time, so it adds a big lot of workload to your workflow. So if you don't think of it as an action camera and think of it as a very, very, very capable, pocketable camera, you'll get a lot more out of it. So as a camera, it's extremely simple in terms of buttons. You've got a shutter release or record button, you've got an on and off switch, and then you've got a series of little buttons on the side. Now, despite it being absolutely minute, it's got all of Sony's menus from the time from their standard camera range, so you can really tweak every setting imaginable, even if it's not particularly easy to do so off with this tiny back screen. But yeah, you can shoot log footage, you can adjust everything you can on a normal Sony camera. The only thing it has a limitation on is the shutter speed. The slowest shutter speed is 1/4 of a second. I've no idea why Sony did that. It makes no sense at all. This would be a perfect little camera to shoot slow footage of waterfalls and stuff. I don't know why Sony hampered it in that way. In terms of ergonomics, a lot of people at the time complained about the ergonomics on it. This is an old camera now. It's actually discontinued by Sony. Sony make really cool things like this. I mean, this I think is the coolest gadget I've ever owned. And then they just abandoned them. But in terms of ergonomics, I really like it. I can take many different photos with it perfectly stably. I can get quite stable in my hands. And the best thing is, even though it's really tiny, it has a completely articulating screen, although it's only obviously up and down. So you can get really low with the camera and still see what you're shooting. And obviously you can go completely above with the camera and still see what you're shooting on the screen. And you can use it as a selfie camera. It'll flip the image upside down and you can take selfie shots of it, and obviously you can vlog with it as well. The inbuilt mics are pretty solid, don't handle wind well like almost every kind of action camera, but you can obviously put a little cage on it. It has got a mic input on the back, so you can put audio straight into it, which is a really nice feature, and actually the feature that the cameras from the RX100 series didn't have at the time as well, so it's a much more powerful little video device than you'd think. The lens is a fixed Zeiss Tessa T-coated 24mm f4 equivalent, so not the fastest lens, but you get decent depth of field with it, and because of the big 1" type sensor, it still performs really well in low light, even though it's not letting anywhere near as much light as most of your standard action cameras do these days. Another issue with the camera when it was launched, it was about £700, so it was not a cheap camera at all, and obviously you could get an awful lot of different cameras for that kind of money. It is quite a niche product in terms of it being so small, something you can jam into your pocket, take out and still have a really, really good quality camera, and still have a really, really good quality 4K camera as well that could shoot log footage, so you could match it up to your bigger full frame or APS-C cameras as well if you wanted to, and achieve the same color grading and stuff. Now, I have shot whole videos on this. It's just so light and small. I've got a tiny little mini tripod that comes with it as well, so I've shot whole videos. I will show you some footage using it walk-in to show you what it's like unstabilised and stabilised, and audio straight from the camera. But when I normally use this on videos when I'm out and about, I use my Action 4, which I'm filming on now, as my main camera if I'm doing like walking and vlogging and stuff. And I use this one to be put down on the ground to do like walk-bys and more scenic shots, because it's got better detailed footage, and the mini tripod is really easy to use. And what is also good about this for doing those kind of shots is if you're getting down really low, you can still flip the screen out and you can still really look at the shot. If you're using like an action cam with a thick screen, it's really hard. You've got to get it down really low to see exactly where it's pointing. This solves that completely, so I do use it a lot for that. Day to day, if I'm out with the kids or the family, I will always take it in my pocket because it's just a really, really good little camera to shoot quite discreet photos of the children on. So I've got lots of really nice photos of them just in like pubs and cafes and restaurants and stuff, and just generally out and about. I've taken some of my favourite photos on this camera just because I've always got it on me. I don't want to take a full frame camera out all the time. It's big, it's cumbersome, it's delicate. Whereas with this, I can just chuck it in the pocket, whether we're going out on the kids' bikes, whatever. And I've just taken some really, really nice photos that I perhaps wouldn't have got otherwise, because the best camera you can have is the camera that you've actually got on you, and this camera is always on me. You can still find it online on a couple of places that have old stock that's still brand new. But I picked mine up on eBay for about £300, which is still quite a lot of money, but it is a very specialised piece of gear. And because I've used it so much, I don't regret buying it at all. I've used it a huge amount as a camera, and I've just got hundreds and hundreds of photos taken with it. And particularly on days when the weather is really variable and changeable, you can get out with this camera and take photos in all kinds of conditions without any kind of worries like you would from a full frame camera. And if you're taking it like wild camping and stuff, it's really easy just to wipe the screen down if you've got any kind of condensation from cold weather and stuff. I find I've had a few lenses on my full frame camera fog up a bit, and obviously I don't want to be scratching those or touching them too much to clean them. No such worries with this device. The only downside is that limited shutter speed, so you can't really do night photos with it very well at all. So it is a really niche bit of tech, but it is something that if you are a serious hiker or street photographer, I just don't think it can be beaten really. It's just so small, so light, I'll put the weight on screen now, and so rugged that you just pop it in your pocket and away you go. Obviously I've had it out in really, really heavy rain doing little videos and stuff, and it's been in my pocket on my waterproof that's been full of water, but no concerns at all. So it really does offer you something completely different to a standard action camera and a standard normal 1-inch type sensor camera. Another cool feature of this tent actually has got a time-lapse feature built into it. It doesn't make the time lapses in camera, it just takes a series of photos up to 999. So you can set it going, it'll obviously fix focus on something, take 999 photos, then when you get back to your computer you can edit those photos and merge them into a nice time lapse. So that's a really cool feature, because a lot of Sony cameras from this era didn't have that feature at all. You had to get third-party software or had to buy like a special remote control to do it. So it's really cool that that's built in. There are certain bits of gear which you always take hiking, your favourite bits of gear, whether it's a bag, a sit mat which I'm using now, or any other kind of stuff, and this is my go-to little camera. I always take it with me because it's just so small and light that there's no point in leaving it at home really. So yeah, if you're in the market for a truly pocketable camera that doesn't sacrifice image quality, doesn't sacrifice the quality of video it can shoot, then I cannot recommend this highly enough. Hunt one down, find one used, take a punt and buy a new one that's still available in a couple of our online retailers, because it is just an absolutely amazing little device. A couple of things to bear in mind: there's no viewfinder, so you are limited to this very small little screen. So it does work pretty well, and one of the advantages actually is that the photos don't look very good on the screen because it's not particularly high resolution. So generally speaking, your photos always look better when you get back and put them on the computer. So that's a weird little bonus. The other issue is battery life is kind of rubbish. Battery life doesn't last long at all, and because the batteries are just so tiny. So pick up a couple of spares. The batteries are tiny, very, very light, so just have 2 or 3 if you plan to go for a really long day out, and depends how much you use it. And the batteries will drain whilst they're in the camera as well. There is Bluetooth on the camera, so you can remote into it and take photos remotely and set the video going and stuff, so that's another cool little thing you can do. But yeah, the little downsides of that aren't really much of an issue, and you can tweak the menu so that you've got your favourite settings quite easy to get to and stuff, and change all the basic things. And there is obviously an auto and superior auto mode as well, so if you just whack it into auto mode and take photos that way, you won't find too much to go wrong. I always shoot in RAW as well, so it's got quite a lot of flexibility there, quite a lot of dynamic range, which you can boost the shadows and stuff and reduce the highlights. So I find generally once they've gone through Photoshop or they've gone through Lightroom, the photos do come out really well. And the other good thing these days is the sensor is a little bit noisy for a 1-inch sensor. A few people complained about how much noise there was in the photos. The new AI noise reduction in most kind of photo editing software can really enhance the photos taken with this device, and it's got a lot of leeway with the dynamic range as well, so it does make a really, really good mini camera. Obviously, it's not been a video of massive in-depth look at all the specs and stuff. You'll find plenty of those videos already out there, and obviously you can still go to the Sony website and find out exactly all the different specs of what it can do. But hopefully from the sample footage and the sample photos, you can see how I've used it in the last sort of 6 to 8 months when I've owned it. I've taken a lot of footage, I've taken a lot of photos, and I've always been really, really impressed by them. So obviously I cover the odd camera in this channel because I do a lot of hiking and a lot of photography. You know, I think hiking and photography go hand in hand. You're out in all sorts of conditions, all sorts of different locations. You'll get those magic moments of a great light and all the rest of it. And that's why I still take this camera with me every day, because you just never know what you're going to see. And if I'm going to capture it, this just completely destroys the quality of my phone. So yeah, really good bit of gear. If there's anything you want to know specifically, then drop me a message. I have got a little bit of a rig for it as well, from doing filming and stuff, that has a filter on it and stuff, so you can slow the shutter speed and that kind of stuff. And you can still find a couple of small accessories on AliExpress and that. But yeah, anything I've missed you want me to cover, let me know in the comments, because I'm not getting rid of this camera, so I'm going to definitely still be owning it whenever you drop a comment. So big thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.